we got another one! Not even a surprise at this point. What is a surprise, however, is some of the stuff that popped up in the stream. I only saw the first portion because I, as usual, woke up, saw there was a stream going, set it up, and then tried to get back to sleep. However, I only saw the Serato part, and so I'm like, oh, it's gonna be another Serato animation stream. That'll be neat to watch later. Later comes around, and imagine my surprise, there's like 3 different dinosaurs that show up. A majority of the stream is actually Gallimimus, and one of them is a texture I'm not used to seeing on it. I don't know if it's going to be the juvie or if it's going to be a skin option. I kind of lean towards juvie because I don't see their skin options being very varied until like much later on, many years from now. So I imagine it's probably a juvie situation, but it was still neat to see. And then Pingu shows up at one point, which kind of surprised me, and we got a brief glimpse of Dibble. I don't think it really did very much, and it wasn't even textured, which I found a little interesting, but it was there, it was hanging out, so as kind of expected, Dibble seems to be pretty low tier right now. But anyway, let's go over Serato real quick. The head hurt animation was the only part I saw when I was setting up the animation, or the recording. It looks like it's very brief one. Granted, I missed an entire hour or so. However, we got to the final product pretty quick. Almost immediately after I'd set everything up, he was finishing it up. So the 2 clips you'll see is the first one that I was able to get when I was setting it up, and then the last one before he stopped showing clips. I think the second one was in the middle of the Gallimimus section somewhere. I don't quite remember. Pretty sure it was. And then he showed the swimming animation again, which makes me think someone probably asked in chat to see it, and so he tabbed over to it and showed the finished, or I assume finished product. Can't say for sure, but I want to say yes, because he wasn't working on it anymore, so I imagine it was probably finished up. But after that, it was mostly Gallimimus, but I'm gonna put Pingu in next instead, because Pingu's a bit more interesting. It shows off some attack animations, but I can't help but notice the feathers on the top of his head that point up every time he attacks. I understand what they're going for, it's like when animals puff up or whatever, but it just looks like cat ears. I can't take it seriously at all, so it looks like it's doing this serious, bloodthirsty attack, and then you've got itty-bitty cat ears popping up on its head like some little anime boy or whatever, so I almost wanted to say I'm not sure this is a joke or not, because it's entirely possible it could be. Bryan does all sorts of stuff like that. But, I don't know if it is. I think that's actually part of the the Pingu, so, take that what you will, but I couldn't stop laughing when I first saw it. That's, an interesting choice. Again, I see what they're going for, like, birds have crests and they'll puff them up whenever they're upset, but, I don't think it works with Pingu at all. It's a nice joke, though. I'm gonna just say it's a joke. It's not. We know it's gonna be in the game. But, from my eyes, this is gonna be a permanent joke no matter what. Even if it's in the game, I'm gonna see that and I'm just gonna laugh, because it's... yeah. I can't say much more on that. The arms move funky. I don't know if this is a finished animation or not. It looks odd to me, but Pingu in general just looks a little funky to me, so maybe that's it. Don't know, don't really care, to be honest. Pingu isn't really my thing. It's nice to see it in motion, because we haven't been able to see too much of Pingu, to be honest. But, I didn't expect the cat ear thing. I cannot stress how much I did not expect that. But, yeah, anyway. He looks a little weird. Some parts, like when Bryan freezes the, animation, before the waving at the end, of course, just midway through the animation when it was frozen, its hand looks like it bends a little funky, but as I said before, I don't really care about stuff like that. Well, it looks strange when you're freezing it. When it's in motion, you don't really notice it too much, so I don't really care. But after Pingu was... well, technically it was more Galli. However, I'm going to put the Dibble here instead so we have the Galli section all to itself because, again, most of the stream was Galli, so it's just easier to have Dibble here all on its own. Again, it didn't really do too much. It wasn't even textured. So I don't know if that means he's getting a fresh new coat of paint. Maybe he's getting a slight model tweak. I don't know. Maybe he's just naked. Who knows? But he didn't really do much of anything. I let it play out in full because the Dibble portion wasn't very long to begin with. So I didn't really see any point in speeding it up or cutting it too short or anything. I mean, there's one part where he just sits there completely still for a while, and I definitely cut that, but aside from that, it pretty much played in full. He lowered its head, and I think that was about it. So, not a whole lot to say about poor Dibble. I imagine, again, he's not very high priority, poor little thing. So I doubt we're going to be seeing it anytime soon. I mean, it was in the list of things Kissin mentioned, but it doesn't look like it's going to be ready for quite some time, so I wouldn't hold my breath. I'm sorry, Dibble fans, but I think you're probably going to be waiting a good long time, unless suddenly it gets its everything, because you'd think he would have shown an animation for it if there was one ready, but who knows. Whatever. Anyway, after that, it was a lot of Galli, so Galli fans rejoice because, oh boy, you got quite a bit today. Well, I guess quite a bit of running and turning. It was mostly running and turning. There was a bit of walking near the end, but honestly, it was mostly running. And then a little bit of turning, and then the walk at the tail end. But, yeah, I mean, at least you get to see some Galli. Most of the adjustments here, there was a decent amount with the tail, and quite a bit with the feet, and adjusting which way the model would turn. I don't know if he was doing, like, if they turn a tight corner or what, but he would tilt it on its side a little bit. But honestly, there was a lot of sitting still in this one, and then there was a huge chunk where it was just emu footage, because, well... yeah, that's generally how these streams go, honestly. But yeah, especially for Galli, I mean, it makes sense. However, it was a massive chunk. Like, I sped this up ×4 and it still took out a huge section of what I was working on, so I'm like, I wonder how much that was in real time. I didn't watch it in real time, I do not care to watch it in real time, however, that was something. So I got to just take out a huge chunk without bothering much with it. The rest of it, however, it's a lot of... it's a run animation with some tweaks. I mean, there's really not a lot to it. So this one's gonna be a challenge, because at least with Serato there was a little bit more going on. But with this one, the tweakage was so minor, for the most part, that I would just... a lot of it's actually breaks where the animation plays out in real time rather than being sped up. And then the tweaks would be, you know, the usual stuff, which you'll still see. However, it was a lot more samey than even the Cerato one before, so that was unfortunate. However, there's still plenty of Galli to go around, and again, there was at least, you know, there were some leg movements and shifting the weight around, like I said before, and tilting the model and all that. I do not know for what purpose it is, whether, again, it's, you know, a tight turn, something of that nature, or if it's just how he's working on it right now and wishes to view it. But, it was interesting to a point. I mean, it's as interesting as a walking animation can be, I suppose. Not my thing. It's not a lot going on, and I think, to be honest, Galli's movement has been mostly fine for a while, because, yet again, most of the tweaks done here were very, very... it was minimal. Like, it was little bits here and there. You'll see him moving the leg, you'll see him adjusting the weight. I think those would be the biggest shifts around, because most of it was little bits with the feet. I think there were some tweaks with the arms at one point, although that might have been in the next section, I'm not quite sure. But overall, it wasn't a whole lot or anything like that. I think, again, this animation was mostly fine, as in he's just polishing it. At least that's the impression I got. Considering how little was actually done compared to some of the others, it seemed more like refinement rather than, you know, actually making it. Like with the Serato's swimming animation earlier, and I don't mean to bring up the Serato because it's Serato, but it's just a better example. The very first clip of it, the head was moving, the feet were moving, but the tail was not, and the body was barely moving at all. And then as things went on, it got very, very flowy and all that. With this one, it looks mostly like it was basically done, and that he's just tweaking it to make it look better. At least that's the impression I got, because when you first see it walking, it doesn't, or running, I should say, not walking, it doesn't look bad or anything. It looks how it is. So I imagine it's just, it was basically already done. It could have been because maybe this was the legacy animation and he's tweaking it and just, you know, making it better, up to standards, all that stuff. They said they'd do that. I never really played Galli ever in Legacy, and I rarely saw them. My friend played it, but I never really touched it because it just wasn't my thing. So I don't know what Legacy Galli's run was like, and if this was that with tweakage, which would make sense, because again, it just makes more sense to tweak the one you got, which again, they've said they do, so I imagine that's what this was. Unlike the Cerato swim one, where I'm pretty sure that had to be completely custom, because in Legacy, if I remember right, there wasn't a lot going on when you bit things in the water. Granted, I don't remember much, but I think it was just the head moving and that was it. So it's possible that he started with the Legacy one and went from there, but I don't even know if the swim animation is going to be the same, because again, Legacy's stuff was pretty simple. So it could have been from scratch. I missed the first section of the stream, like I said, so I don't know. But moving back to Galli, by now it should definitely be the one with the strange texture, which, again, I don't know exactly what this, you know, spooky, strange texture Galli is, but I want to say it's a juvie/baby, probably juvie. It does look very different from the other one, so I imagine it's gonna start out as we see here and then grow up into the Galli we know. I can't say for certain what the fate of this Galli is, but again, I imagine this is a juvie and it'll grow up into the Galli we have right now. But who knows? I mean, the Dillo thing came out of left field. I still don't know what that's all about. I hate to bring up literally anything except Galli and Galli's thing, but I keep hoping that we'll get our regular Dillo alongside whatever that abomination one was, because I love our Dillo as it is. I don't want to see it changed into that. I know some people like it, but oh my goodness, it's hideous. And not a good hideous, it's a bad hideous. It's not wow, that's so awful, it's really cool. That's awful, it has pubes growing on its chin, and that's disgusting. And not a good disgusting, it's just why? Why would you do that? Especially when Tapwing's Dillo looked so fantastic. Like, you can go to the Dillo concept art, look at the Dillo there, and it looks absolutely amazing. I love it. And they should have just stuck with that, but I'm getting off topic a little too early. By now, it's hopefully at the Galli's turn. Again, I think this is an animation that was mostly already done. There wasn't a whole lot of tweaking done. There was a little bit. And I did cut out a decent amount because it was, you know, fiddling with the feet, fiddling with the tail a little bit, a bit of the weight leaning here or there. it was a lot of the same stuff again and again, as I've mentioned, so I let the animations play out for the most part rather than the tweakage this time, because he did a little bit more of, you know, different animations playing rather than the exact same portion again and again, and then he'd tweak it and move on, stuff like that. But there's not a whole lot to say about this one. It looked fine as it was. And amusingly, I think Galli's head sits still more than Cerato's did. Because Cerato's had a bob to it for some reason. But Galli's is very still. And that's how I would expect it to be, but... I don't understand. I'm not gonna try to understand. I'm just going to move on and ignore that. I think this was the portion where there was some arm tweakage and all that fun stuff, and then by the very end you just see it in its walk cycle, and that's it. I mean, it was just hanging out walking. I'll probably cut it a little bit more, because it was a lot of walk cycle in this one, honestly. So, with that, let's go to thoughts on this beautiful stream. It was alright. I think that's mostly my answer for most animation streams. I guess in some ways it was a little bit more than alright, because it did show... We got a little bit of Pingu, we got a little bit of Serato, we got Dibble, Nakey, and then it was a bunch of Galli. However, it was also a walk cycle, refinement sort of stream, so there wasn't a whole lot going on. I mean, there's not usually a whole lot going on, but it's always nice when you can get, you know, multiple neat animations. Like in the prior one that I missed, there was the jump and the trot and the bite, the alt attack thing and all that other stuff, and this one it was basically the walking stuff, you know, walk, trot, turn, and, well, was there trot? I don't think there was, actually I don't know if there was a trot so much as just the walk, the run, and the turn. Granted, I don't pay super close attention, I suppose, but anyway. But we did get a little bit of Pingu's attack stuff, so that was nice. Even if the cat ears are a interesting choice. Again, I understand the birds with the crest and all that fun stuff, and they'll puff up when they get angry and all that, but it doesn't work very well, especially when it's just two little spots on the head. I mean, again, I get what they're going for. It's the crest thing when birds get angry sometimes and all that, but it just, there's only so many times I can say it looks like a joke, and I would like to say many times over it was a joke, because it's more of a joke than the waving thing he did at the end. I mean, come on. But anyway, I get what they're going for again, and it's there. We'll see it in the game, I am almost certain. It's just hilarious. It's just... oh my goodness. We're at the end. I'm not gonna bother with it. It's ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. It's a mess. That's all I'll say. Dibble, nothing happened. Serato looked fine. I had my gripes about the walk animation that wasn't visible here. It was just the head movement due to a head injury and the swimming thing again. So I imagine again the swim one is done. Don't know for sure, but that's what it seems like. Back to Galli, it was mostly just movement. It was minor tweaks to an animation that I'm pretty sure was already done. Which is nice to see. I'm not saying it was bad. It was great, and it was nice, and I enjoy it. I'm glad the animations are getting better, because some of the ones in Legacy were not so great. Like, again, I could go back to the swimming one, which could have been a Legacy animation that he was also altering, which is part of why I brought it up. That, and it's the best reference I have right now, but that's part of why I brought it up, because it could have been a Legacy animation that he was touching up, because there was swim biting to an extent in Legacy. It just wasn't very much. There wasn't a whole lot going on. So I imagine it could have been that. It wouldn't surprise me, to be honest, because a lot of the Legacy animations were kind of They were just there. Like, they were alright. Some of them I do like better than the current ones, mostly so far as walking goes. Like, I know Carno had a sit that looked fine in Legacy, and then they made it ridiculous, and then they changed it again for Evrima, or whatever. And then his walk was absolutely ridiculous. It looked fine in Legacy, and then they altered it to be weird, and then they toned it down, and yeah, we could go on and on. It just seems to be how it is. But anyway, I like most of the new animation stuff going on, and it's always nice to see, you know, more active dinos, because you're gonna be staring at it for so long. You want it to look nice, is what I'm saying. You want it to move nice, you want it to have nice little... Well, at least for me, I like the idle animations. I remember in Legacy, I think Aloe, it was, had this yawn he would do sometimes, just at random. And I remember my friend would hear the sound, and she'd be like, "What was that?" And she'd start looking around, and we'd think something was nearby, but it was just the Aloe yawning every now and again. It was amusing. I like cute little stuff like that. And then I think Rex would scratch itself or something in Legacy, if I remember right. I like cute little things like that as well. I know not everyone does. But if you're just standing there idly, I don't see why not. If you're resting, definitely there shouldn't be any weird random sounds, which I think they've fixed recently. Pretty sure they mentioned that dinos will quiet down when they're sitting. But I do not know for sure. I haven't played it since... well, since the footage you guys saw eons ago, and that was already old footage, so I haven't played it in a very long time. I think it was the start of the night... no, it was before the night vision update. I haven't seen the new night vision yet. Well, I've seen it in videos, but I haven't seen it personally just yet. And I'm glad I waited, because that first iteration of night vision was actually just terrible, and I would have never played again if that would have stayed, because it was awful. But the new one, from what I've seen, looked alright. I haven't looked at it a whole lot, to be honest, but I think it was okay if I remember right. So hopefully by the time Trudon comes around, there'll be some nice stuff. I haven't seen Gore in game properly yet. Granted, it looked pretty darn disappointing in the videos I saw, but I kind of expected that much. Yeah. I could go on about the organs they chose and why they would choose those ones over other ones, because I've fed carnivores before, and there are certain organs that give absolutely nothing, and there's certain organs that give a lot. Like the liver, for instance, is incredibly nutrient-rich. The intestines are actually worthless. They're poop containment units. Most things will not eat them, unless of course it's whole prey, in which case, yeah, they'll eat it because they have to. But there's a lot of creatures that just won't eat the intestines because there's no point. It's nothing. It's paper. It's nothing. So why they chose that, aside from the obvious intestines lol, because it's easy gore, just about anything with gore is gonna have intestines in it, I don't understand. And then they were stiff when you picked them up, so it looks like an actual joke. I don't know. I could go on and on about that. I won't. I won't do it. Not this time. I'm sure when I play it again, and I encounter it in game for the first time, I'll whine plenty then. But for now, I'll try not to go over that way. I mean, it's the end rambling, so it doesn't matter, but I've got to save some material for another time. We'll talk about gore when there's more relevant stuff, because, I had a lot to say on that. But, anyways, I think this should hopefully about do it. I hope you guys have been doing well. Have a great day, night, whatever the heck time it is when this gets posted, / whenever you see it. And goodbye!
Thank you.